We are delighted to welcome back Jamie Court. He is the president of ConsumerWatchdog.org, the Consumer Watchdog organization, just around the corner from us here at our West LA studios. You're in Santa Monica. So we have the PACT Act. That's probably going to qualify for the November ballot.
We submitted 840,000 signatures, and that should be good enough to get us on the November ballot because it's more than ample given the validity rates. Yeah.
The other issue that Americans are thinking about right now is the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But you also have another initiative that will be on the November ballot that is it has echoes of Prop 103.
Well, it does more than echo. It extends this auto insurance and home insurance regulation that's been so successful in California, the health insurance rates. Because
so health insurance.
Yeah, well, health insurance rates, if you've noticed, they've been going up like a runaway train. I mean, Anthem Blue Cross just had a 25% rate hike. We keep seeing them. But in California, no one has the power to really look at these rate hikes and say they're not acceptable and then stop them. 25 other states have that. Give that right to an insurance commissioner, and we don't have that in California. So we're extending the really successful insurance regulation that's applied to auto and home to health insurance, and we're requiring that health insurers do a lot of justification before they get to raise their rates, and we're also going to actually apply the same type of public participation provisions we've used with auto and home so that consumer groups like ours or any member of the public can stand up and say, no, that rate's not justified. You can hire an actuary, and if you prove the rate's not reasonable, then the insurance companies have to pay your actuaries. And so by doing this, we've kept auto insurance and home insurance rates really low in California. We can do it for health insurance, too. And we have the California Nurses Association behind it, along with, Senator Dianne Feinstein's in favor of it. And she's fairly pro-business. So this is a really just kind of moderate measure that actually does a lot for consumers, but also does something for small businesses and businesses who pay for these insurance rates. And increasingly, it's too big a share of their bottom line. It's got to come down. And we think a lot of the rate hikes are very unjustified, that the insurers are sitting on money in reserves they shouldn't be sitting on. We know that they're doing a lot in terms of passing on political contributions, excessive executive compensation. You cannot do that in the auto insurance market in California. If an insurance company fights us like they're going to fight our ballot measure, WellPoint just gave $13 million. This is the parent of Anthem Blue Cross, against the health insurance rate regulation measure. When they do that, now they can pass that on to you, the consumer. But if we pass this ballot measure, they won't be able to pass on their political lobbying costs, their candidate contributions. If they pay their CEO too much, and believe me, most of them pay their CEOs too much, they can't pass on whatever that is, an excessive insurance rate. So the health insurance regulation is just so critical for all of us, and of course we're going to be facing a huge opposition among the health insurance industry. But I think if the public can just hear what this has done for auto insurance and home insurance, and realize what it's really about, consumers standing up for themselves, that we're going to break through.
Have you done any projections on how much they would drop if all of the things that really aren't that necessary were removed?
Well, we know that we haven't done a projection overall, but we have looked at individual company rates, and so has the Department of Insurance. So many of the recent rate hikes, which are double-digit rate hikes, are unreasonable, and they have been for many years. Under the initiative, we're actually able to look back to 2012. And if the rates are excessive since 2012 for health insurance companies, the insurance commissioner, if he finds that, can order refunds going backwards. So we're talking about saving people probably, hundreds to maybe thousands of dollars on their health insurance over the last couple of years, just to catch up to where we are today.
Actual cash in your pocket?
Actual cash in our pocket, yeah. Because, the average family is paying $12,000 a year for health insurance. And if those rates are 20% too high, you do the math, that's $2,400 a year.
And the insurance companies have been raising rates because they can.
Because they can, and they don't have to justify themselves to anyone. And in other states where we have seen this type of rate justification review and regulation, we've seen a cap on rates. Massachusetts, which had very high rates, implemented this provision, and rates have been flat for the last 2-3 years. New York implemented the provision. The rates have been flat after we did this with auto insurance. It's very interesting. In '88, there was a mandatory auto insurance law. And then we passed Prop 103 to say, well, if auto insurance is going to be mandatory, it better be affordable. Well, the parallels are eerie, right? We now have a mandatory health insurance law, but there's no requirement that health insurance be affordable. And that's what this health insurance review and rate regulation measure is all about. It's about making sure that there's someone watching, that there's an independent voice as we're implementing Obamacare, as insurers are able in California to play with their numbers and jack up rates. Someone's watching and someone can say no if the rates are unreasonable.
We want to talk about health care, but just before we move to that, I mean, California is often seen as the most progressive state in the country, and why is it that New York, et cetera, they already have these caps, these controls in place, and we don't?
I've been fighting the health insurers, the insurers in the Capitol for 25 years, and I can tell you, these are the most powerful industries in Sacramento, the medical and the insurance industry. These are the guys who spend hundreds of millions to get their way with candidates, with politicians, and in the ballot measure process. So it's all about money and power. I mean, Senator Calderon, who was recently indicted by the FBI, was the head of the insurance committee, and he used his power often for the insurance industry as well as for the medical scheme that he is alleged to have taken multiple bribes in. So when we look at these corruption scandals, Leland Yee, who just fell up in San Francisco, I'll tell you, the California Medical Association, the insurance industry, had no bigger friend in Sacramento than Leland Yee. So corruption is part of it, but there's just also just the legal cash register politics. So you can, we tried for 12 years to get health insurance rate regulation through the legislature with Dave Jones, our insurance commissioner, was in the legislature, and others, and we could never move it past the Senate to the Senate floor because the insurers always controlled a certain number of votes that kept us from doing it. Senator Calderon, who was recently indicted, was one of those votes. Senator Wright, who was recently indicted, was also another of those votes. They always had just enough to keep us from getting to the governor's desk. I think the governors would have had to sign it if we did it. Even Schwarzenegger probably would have had to sign it, but we could never move it out of the legislature.
Proving once again the value and the importance of the initiative. Going out and collecting signatures.
This is all about, I mean, this is our affiliate Consumer Watchdog campaign has done this as a lobbying effort because that's what you have to do with initiatives, but this is all about direct democracy. This is where the public actually has a chance to vote on something that's good for it. And the only real issue, because we've seen the polling, you know, on both these issues, more than 2/3 of voters want this. It's a question of whether they'll be able to see through the smokescreen of confusing ads by the industries claiming it isn't what they think it is.
We only have about 2 minutes left for this segment. Affordable health, the Affordable Care Act. Deadline is coming up. It's days away.
Yeah, and I think that in many ways, look, it's insured a lot of people. It's put people into insurance policies that are there whether they get sick or not, but there's a lot of hiccups. And what I think California has to do is look at Covered California, the exchange, which has had tremendous problems for consumers, and we need to start fixing it. I think we have to accept where we are as a place that is better than where we were. The problem I see is Covered California, which has really become like an insurance agent for the insurance industry, the health insurers, isn't willing to accept its problems. There's long waits. People were supposed to have gotten coverage that didn't get it, but the big problem with the new policies is that if you're in Covered California, not in the private market, very skinny networks of doctors and hospitals, and you better make sure your doctor and hospital is on that list because people are finding out that their oncologists weren't on that list. Doctors and hospitals that they've had on the old plans were on the list. And I think the health insurers have to be forced to open up bigger networks of doctors and hospitals because right now what rates they're charging are too high if they don't have enough doctors and hospitals in it.
On that note, let's take one more break. We'll be right back. Point your browser in that direction. You'll find more about what we have talked about plus a whole lot of other things. So ConsumerWatchdog.org. And if you've missed all of that, you'll find it here, myfoxla.com. Just click that, look for the MidDay Sunday logo, and you'll have all this information there just as well. What do we need to say to wrap this program up? We got about 2 minutes left.
Well, I think it's just exciting times for health care and for health insurance, and as frustrated as people are, I think they have to realize part of it's growing pains, and we can make things better at the state level. And in addition to the ballot measures we talked about, which you know our affiliate Consumer Watchdog campaign is working on, there's also a couple more ballot measures that unions are passing to limit how much hospital executives can be paid. That may go on the ballot. To limit how much can be charged by hospitals, which the public, that may go on the ballot. I think it's going to be an exciting ballot for direct democracy, and I think the public just has to take the time to look through the ballot pamphlet and figure this out for themselves.
I don't want to get you too wound up because we have just a little bit of time, but you've used this phrase direct democracy a couple times. That's really important, and it makes a lot of sense.
It does. We're still feeling the shocks from 25 years ago in the insurance reform. We've seen the savings. They haven't been able to undo it, and we need to do that again. We need to show the special interests in Sacramento that every once in a while that people can go to the ballot and fix things, because in the interim, that will mean Sacramento, once the FBI is through there, will be a lot cleaner and a lot better, and they'll worry about the ballot initiative the next time. We actually will get more traction in the legislature if every once in a while we can pass something landmark by the voters that's good for democracy and defies the status quo.
Anybody ever thought about making illegal lobbying?
Probably violate some First Amendment rules.
Well, yeah. He's an attorney, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah,
I'm not actually, but I live with enough of them to know that.
There you go. Okay. Okay.
But no, I think lobbying's okay. The problem is money. The power of money over that process is staggering in Sacramento. I've seen it. And even the good people don't want to get on the sides of the people who they're not necessarily friendly with. So we just never have enough votes for something great until we have a moment like I think this year's ballot, where if voters and consumers stand up for 10 years, it will be felt in Sacramento, and we'll have much better legislation just because there's the threat that we'll go back to the people and do something really significant.
Why don't you have a law degree?
I never had time. I started canvassing for insurance reform, and it got me going.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, I was never a member of the Boy Scouts, so look, this is going. It's a good thing the program is over with because we're going off in directions we don't want to go. Jamie, thank you very much for being with us as always. And again, it's ConsumerWatchdog.org. We'll see you back here next week. Be part of the democracy.